Satu is a wacky overused programmer who licks his boss like a dog gets tired of living the hustle. He is suddenly transported to another world which is similar to a game in development. Despite his less than average stats, Satu had a few meteor showers in his arsenal, allowing him to level up like crazy and kill a god by mistake. In this new world, Satu drops the coder gig and becomes a merchant, buying his own harem and becoming an overpowered hero. However, before any of this, the young Matrix programmed slave runs to the train station in time for his job. The train, however, runs early, forcing him to make a run for it. Aboard the train, he realizes that the train schedule is different cause it's Sunday. The workload made him forget what day of the week it was. His colleague asks about him showing up to the office on a Sunday. Suzuki claims the young newbie left and his sugar daddy forced him to pick up his slack. After hours of banging on the screen, the end comes so near that Suzuki can smell it. Suddenly, the shut-in fatso manager who stays late to use the AC and Starlink to access Hub comes to tell him client new demands. Suzuki comes up with an idea on the fly, explaining his plans to add maps for new players that contain 3 bombs. Upon completing the quest, players will receive rare achievements and gear. This way, the beginners won't whine about the game being similar to their life, and the winners will have something to look forward to. The manager, not wanting to use his brain cells, compliments him for a job well done. Suzuki asks him to call the client and tell them about their new idea, otherwise they will rant on the delivery date. He glances at the cloak moments later and decides to time out for lunch. Outside, he buys his lunch to give himself a treat. However, someone abandons their kid crying in the comment section. With few minutes to spare, Suzuki walks closer to the girl to ask about her parents. Naturally, the kid is looking for her mama, giving him a chance to get close with a potential MILF. For real? He thought that the mom would report him to the officials on Epstein Islands. Nonetheless, her mom was hot as fudge. On that note, Suzuki returns to his office to continue the grind. He tests out the game to check if the bugs are removed. His colleague, who is facing lawsuits for being late in the office, decides to turn off after 3 days of crashing in the office. Suzuki advises him for having a wife who's at least waiting for him. His colleague advises him to get women for himself. He knows it will be a perfect idea. However, he thinks going on a death march daily makes it impossible. He pulls an all-nighter, successfully removing the bugs and adding the features in the game. Just as he is about to res, a colleague tells him about a storage duplication bug in another game. He sends an email to him, mentioning all the details. Suzuki realized his manager didn't want to feel the heat, so sent in a quiet email instead. He hopes the fatso will treat him to some steak and premium Hub subscription. He works for 30 hours straight without any sleep. Suzuki finishes up his work and sends the last email to get some well-deserved shut-eyes. Upon waking up, he finds himself FL, the game they were working on. Suzuki finds it odd that his age and world have been changed in the dream. He opens his status bar on which his name is Satu Pendragon, the name he always used for test characters. Suzuki opens the map reveal feature, which gives him idea that lizard men level 50 are coming to kill him. Satu, hiding behind a pillar, wishes for them to walk away. However, the lizard men attack him with a spear. He feels the attack and blood from the wound, leaving him puzzled. No one wants to die in a dream, and with that in mind, Satu activates his magic meteor shower. Unfortunately, the attack takes time to be implemented, leaving it open for Bullet Fest for the time being. Suddenly, he looks up the sky to see a meteor shower coming his way. The majestic strikes turn the lizard man into lizard dust and shoot up his level. He gets so many items that they are uncountable. He also gains the title Conqueror of the Valley of Dragons. Satu is living life like a citizen should in a democratic society. Sure, work was tough, but it wasn't bad enough for him to magic hop into another dimension. As the smoke clears, he finds one lizard man outside the magic area effect. Just like in the game, the lizard men throw him a weapon, challenging him to a duel. He picks up the sword and swings it like a baseball bat. The lizard man cuts his shoulder and laughs at his skill level. Satu shakes the bum as they don't lie and throws the sword at it before hitting himself. Weirdly enough, the sword slices the thing in half, shocking him. Satu learns that dreams don't have the option to log off or save progress. For the time being, he realizes that healing is his top priority. Unbeknownst to him, the wound on his shoulder vanishes. He opens his stats and sees that everything is maxed out. His hit points and magic points are off the charts. He checks the log and doesn't find anything of use. Ultimately, he recharges his meteor shower before it runs out on him during a battle. To be on the safe side, Satu makes sure there are no glitches in the system. He casts the spell from a safe distance, but something messes up, causing the meteors to fall on him. Luckily, he rolls into a barrier of sorts, which saves his life. Feeling thirsty, Satu takes a sneak peek at his inventory to find a water bag. He puts unlimited water to good use and jumps back into the inventory. He finds his pocket loaded with cash. When the next town comes, Satu will do some candy shopping in Fiki-sen's store. Plus, he has a holy sword, a divine sword, and a magic gun. It feels like he died and went to middle school geek heaven. He equips a coat from the inventory and charges up his skills before heading to the nearest city. In the morning, he witnesses the beauty of this new world and shoots off running. After covering miles on foot, Satu comes across Warrior's Fort. There is also a city nearby on the map. He also finds 100 men stationed near the forest. Seconds later, a wyvern approaching him appears on the map. He jumps into the sky, eager to check it out. However, the wyvern crashes into him, causing him to fall. Unlike before, he doesn't feel the pain due to his weak stats. Satu teaches him a lesson by throwing a pebble to tear its wing. He realizes that his strength has exceeded human capacity. Unfortunately, his strike diverts the wyvern's attention towards the 100 soldiers. He feels responsible for leading them to death, and so rushes over there immediately. Upon changing the language setting, he begins understanding them. The soldiers want to make the wyvern fall to the ground and kill it. Their arrows are ineffective on his thick skin. However, the mage's spell forces him to fall. The dragon regains his footing and escapes from an opening. Xena intends to fight it alone, but the dragon flicks her in the air. The mage immediately casts a wind-type spell to slow her fall. However, Satu plays the hero and jumps to save her. Playing the hero pays off big time as he acquires the skill Transport and the title Lifesaver in midair. This makes him realize that getting skills and titles is like stealing food for a blind person. He tells Xena to not look down, but of course, women don't listen to men's advice. She looks and almost pisses her pants. However, he rescues her before that happens. On the hill, you would have fallen in love with her at this point if his age wasn't 29. Satu makes a rookie mistake introducing himself before asking her name. Seconds later, she remembers the intros are in order. Xena Marientale has been working in the military and her age is 17. She is not married, neither has a boyfriend. In his world, this is called TMI. Her friends from the military arrive on the hill to save her. Xena tells Lilio to stop looking at him with hostility. He puts a smile on his face and introduces himself as a traveling merchant. The other soldier, Iona, claims a traveling merchant without a carriage seems fishy. Satu lies about his carriage being destroyed in the meteor shower, acquiring the skills of fabrication and making excuses. He claims that his grandfather's grave is near the Dragon Valley. His course ran this way and left the carriage behind. He can't even give them his legal documentation, since his items were destroyed in the meteor shower called Starfall by the soldiers. Using his new skills, he slipped his way into their group. They also give him a ride into the city. On his way, Satu checks the demographics of Sirius City. Unexpectedly, 80% of its population is full citizens while 20% are slaves. There is also an elf and an unknown magical creature, which piques his interest. After entering the city, Xena goes to for her debriefing. She will stop by later to say her thanks. Satu insists that her appreciation is not necessary. However, she blushes and persists that a member of a royal family must not leave matters unchecked. He is ready to bid all of his money on the fact Xena is in love with him. In the meantime, Iona takes him to the check post to issue new trading papers. The man in charge of the check post, who looks like he's done some nasty things to Iona, asks if she wants Daddy's attention. She introduces him as Xena's savior and orders the man to work his magic. He tells Satu to place his hand on the Yamato stone. But before that, asks if he's a fugitive running from the law. Satu says he doesn't work part-time at the Green Arrow, and so he calls out his name, making his stats visible to the room. For some reason, the stats on the screen are from before he became OP. The man didn't know he was an adult. Satu is surprised they consider 15-year-old boys are considered adults in this world. The man looks like, for now, the man only charges him for his service and leaves the discount on taxes. However, he warns Satu that overstaying his visit will be fined heavily. And if it's not paid, then his bum will be in fan service forever. Iona tells him about the gate inn and leaves. Satu is cruising through the city with a dork boner. As a developer, he dreamt of seeing his creation in person. Suddenly, a 13-year-old girl with squishy jugs on which you can sleep appears out of nowhere. She pushes his hand against her milkers and takes him to the gate inn. Her mother asks if she forced him to come. However, Satu, feeling her jelly-like plot, says it was his choice to get trapped like any man would. He thinks her mom is hot and would bang that woman if she had just lost 20 pounds. She reveals that a room costs 1 copper aside from food charges. He takes it for 10 nights, costing him 2 silvers. This whole experience helps him acquire the skill negotiation and estimation. At the dinner table, Mosa serves food from made a few hours before. She tells Martha to clean the ruins of the cowardly merchants who left this morning. Satu wants to know her reasons for calling them cowards. She reveals the merchants were spreading rumors of the Demon King picking a fight with lizard men in the Valley of Dragons. He can't believe the Demon Lord's story is the same as in the game's plot. Mosa continues, revealing the hero defeated the Demon King 30 years ago. She believes the Demon Lord will attack the city on the opposite side of the country. She leaves their conversation unfinished to deal with other customers. This gives him the personal space to eat his meal in peace. Despite being cold, the dish is filled with balance and hopefully some of Martha's milk. But as she interrupts his meal, Satu remembers she is a minor. He asks her about the best place to buy supplies. Martha starts with the thrift store options, thinking he's a brokey. However, he wants to buy tailored prefab clothing. Instead of explaining the map layout, she offers him to show him around town. In the east side of town, two young demi-human slaves accidentally bump into a man frustrated by his V-card. He pushes the kids away, telling them to stay on the west of town. Satu helps the girls by posing as their master. This helps him learn the rare skill Poker Face. He then picks up the firewood and gives it to the girls. They thank him for helping them, and their supposed mother also shows gratitude. Martha can't believe he was kind to slaves. She claims that demi-humans used to kill farmers and rob their goods, and thus resentment for them is common. Still, she switches gears and continues shopping. Satu haggles with a jewelry seller, acquiring the skill Haggle. Plus, he rizzes up Martha, who is still in her growth stage, meaning those heavenly milkers has room to grow. On their way back, he glances at Arisa, an 11-year-old slave girl titled Witch of the Lost Kingdom and the Mad Princess. With such titles, he knows that this girl will create trouble. Upon returning to the inn, Martha serves him hot appetizers and boar meat. He enjoys experiencing new tastes, leading him to overeat. In bed, Satu starts to realize things in this dream are real. The story is much different from the one he remembers. Plus, tasting new food and alcohol is unheard of. However, he wants to have fun in this world and learn more things to inspire his game development career. The following morning, Martha knocks on his door, informing him that his girlfriend is waiting outside. She wants to use her off day to show him around the city. Xena acts thirsty to get his thick cream. Her coming off as desperate impresses Satu, and so he accepts her date invitation. Their first stop is at a local food vendor selling Sirius City special patty snack. Satu quickly pays for the snack, ruining her plans. She wanted to treat him with good food as payback for saving her life. However, he claims that her showing him around the city with that smile is enough. After finishing the snack, they continue shopping and eating more snacks. A random MF kid with no father bumps into her, ruining the fancy suit. She tells him it was her mother's dress. Satu wants her to check the tailored shop, hoping they will have a solution for the stain. Unexpectedly, an everyday magic user comes to their rescue. He finds the cold door-to-door salesgirl a little suspicious at first, but her skills rid him of his caution. She casts water spells and wind spells to clean the suite. Thanks to her, he acquires the everyday magic skill like it's a garage sale. On their way back, Satu pries into her past experience with magic. She chants a spell with music like keynotes that are difficult for him to understand. She has been learning magic for 3 years. However, her parents taught her magic poems that help kids understand the sounds. She asks about a merchant's reasons to learn magic. Satu, being a 29-year-old manipulator, claims that magic will help him take a bath without people looking at his tool. Xena burst into laughter, as this was the least expected answer from his side. Her laughter helps him acquire the title Clown. Nonetheless, he believes a date with Xena using flight magic will be memorable, earning him the gentlemanly skill. Later, he uses Xena authority to visit the military base of Sirius City. They admire the view from the fortress wall and plan to visit the windmill next. Before that, she takes him to the church where the last heroes and Demon Lord are shown fighting. She explains the hero is wielding a holy sword. Based on legends, the holy sword glows blue when a hero wields it. However, it will also glow if it deems the person worthy. However, the head priest Ona believes only heroes summoned by the young goddess Parian should wield the sword. Xena introduces her, saying she's the count's daughter. They go a long way back as Xena's mother was her nurse. Ona teases her for showing interest in something other than magic. But their conversation ends as the head priest is needed elsewhere. On their way to the windmill, Satu checks his title status only to find the god Slayer. He checks his log, discovering that the dragon god Akan was killed by his meteor strike. However, he decides to stay low. The sly dog driving the horse cat intentionally steps on a rock, making Xena fall on her. After some time, they come across a bald priest Boido, or you can call him Baldio, preaching BBC propaganda to a mob. He sells rocks to the people, claiming they are divine. With them, the mob punishes the demi-humans for being demons. Xena immediately jumps down and protects the girls. In the meantime, Satu stops acting like a coward and takes action. He scans the area and learns that a few sewer rats are riling up the mob, earning him the secret maneuver skill. As Xena casts wind magic to shield the demi-humans, he takes out unemployed full-time addicts. Seconds later, a scammer from India, enjoys the shows. Knowing that money is being printed, he catches the rat red-handed and kicks him in the guts. Satu announces that this man lends his slaves to the priest to manipulate the mob. They sold ordinary rocks, bleeding them dry. was also planning to lead a rebellion against the Count. This speech gets him 2 additional skills: amplification and judgment. The people realize was a devil worshipper instead of the demi-humans. The name demon reminds him of the unknown being marked on his map. Simultaneously, the demon kills the baldy priest, creating a panic. Xena tells Satu to take the slaves and run. He follows the order down to every word. However, the slaves can't move from their location because of order. The woman tells him to run without them, but Satu doesn't want Xena to get mad at him. Suddenly, the demon tears body and escapes. Despite the situation, dying becomes a blessing as Satu becomes their new owner. The one-eyed whose mouth is bigger than his whole body. He wants to use the city as a nest for his master. Unexpectedly, the demon casts a spell, teleporting them to a labyrinth. Satu wants to curse the developers for this plot twist, but for now he has 3 news to carry. First, he names the white-haired girl Tama, the brown one Pochi, and the woman with some heavy-duty assets Lisa. He gives them new clothes, fresh water, and ointments to disinfect the wounds. Lisa doesn't want him to waste his supplies or talk to them with respect, and so Satu orders them to comply. After cleaning up, Lisa's gravity-fudging milkers are more visible, but there is a labyrinth to be dealt with. He quickly orders them to eat food to replenish their energy. During this time, he scans the labyrinth and finds it pretty easy to clear. He also learns that Zima is with the other soldiers, allowing him relief. Satu steps forward to look the passageway. However, Lisa and the girls assume he will abandon them. They rush to his side, offering themselves as pawns. He assures them there won't be any Dr. Phil episodes this week. He checks everyone's stats to learn that Lisa has some combat abilities. To be safe, he hands her a short sword, leaving them confused. But they can't fight unless he orders them to, earning him the direction skill. He organizes everyone's ability to create a sturdy formation. Pochi smells blood from afar and warns him. Despite having a level over 300, wondering how heroes fight bravely, Liza voices her opinion, claiming the best course of action is to slip past the monster or attack from behind. He utilizes the magic gun from his inventory to spray the bug with bullets. Satu continues exploring the dungeon, creating new weapons for the girls and earning an uncountable number of skills in the process. Eventually, he realizes their levels aren't going to increase just by being with him. Poki warns him about the biome ahead. Satu immobilizes the monster and asks Tama to throw rocks at it. Liza delivers the finishing blow, making it a successful dispatch. Walking some distance, they encounter a giant bug dozing off, hoping to find a Wi-Fi network. He orders Tama to disturb its nap by showering rocks at it. Pochi acts as a decoy and runs to the other side, catching its attention. However, she gets scared and runs way ahead, forcing Satu to catch her. She apologizes for screwing the plan, but Satu assures her there is nothing wrong. In the future, she must keep a cool head even in scary situations. This gesture of his earns him the Tamer skill for minors. He wishes for something like a bondage instructor since Tamer has multiple meanings. On that note, they continue defeating the monster and collecting cores for hours. Satu notices Lisa is running out of stamina. He calls a timeout and orders the girls to rest. Liza wants to set up a cam for him, but that would nullify the point. Upon recovering, they explore the labyrinth, helping the girls earn new skills and level up. At this point, they take care of a monster without Satu's help. Liza starts to open herself more, asking if he will allow her to cook frog meat, but he only cares about his meat being stuffed in those buzzes. Satu is hesitant to taste her meat like Putin was with the champagne. However, the food turns out to be good. The meat tasted like chicken due to the seasoning she used. He tells the girls to start eating before it gets cold. The girls wash themselves using the unlimited water pouch and go to sleep. Satu knows they will escape the labyrinth in no time at this pace. But the question is what will happen to the girls. For now, he worries about clearing the labyrinth. His party comes across a slime for the first time. Satu casts fire magic from a weak scroll, acquiring the skill to use fire magic. Unfortunately, the puny flames don't work on them. Liz explains that a slime's core is its weak spot. She stabs the core and kills it with one shot. Tama points at a side wall and calls it weird. He opens the map to determine it is a hidden room but refrains from entering. Suddenly, a level 40 undead beast appears, threatening their survival. Satu fights with the monster and kicks it into the trap they set before. The fight doesn't last long as the trap kills it. They explore the deep floors of the labyrinth to find 3 humans trapped in spider web. The first person they rescue is the head of Belton Viscounts Jin Belton. He promises to reward them heavily if they can escape. The second person is Nindarin, a slave trader, so Satu better become homies with that person. These people are polite to them. However, the third person, who is the same commoner bullying Tama and Pochi in the city. He tries to grab Pochi's short sword, but Satu tells her to return. Jin tells him to shut his trap or his fire magic will burn his bones. Consecutively, the girls hear swords clashing with each other from afar. He asks the two newbies to stay in their rear while his party investigates. They find a battalion of soldiers struggling to fight with slimes. At this point, Satu is not overwhelmed by war. He remains cool and orders the girls to defeat the slimes. While this was happening, the ignorant commoner who thinks of himself as strong after bullying children picks up a sword to fight a slime. Reality struck like lightning when his sword can't pierce a freaking slime. Unexpectedly, Pochi comes to his rescue and fights the slime. The commoner, whose name isn't even worth mentioning, feels ashamed but doesn't have the balls to say thank you. Meanwhile, Satu slips past the forces to save Xena. He captures the slime's attention with rocks and stabs his core. Xena immediately hugs him, glad that he's safe. Ona shows up at the scene and suggests they should get a rune later. For now, she wants to know about the monster's weak spots. He teaches them a method to kill slimes, earning praise from Xena. However, he passes it on to Lisa. Ona tells Xena she can investigate him for cheating later, flustering him. In the background, some random NPC opens a treasure chest that everybody knows is a trap to reveal an eyeball demon. It didn't accept that this many humans would find his treasure chest, but the more the better. The soldiers form a tight circle to attack at once with Jin in the rear on support. His low-level spells didn't work on the demon, and so Jin intends to cast a mid-level spell. However, the eyeball demon thinks their magic is too slow. He casts a hallucination spell on the soldiers and the girls before they can attack. Satu sees weird rings on their heads as they allocate about food. He puts them to sleep before they eat the soldiers. Meanwhile, the other soldiers fighting each other for unknown purposes. Jin, unaffected by the hallucination, casts a mid-level spell on the demon, inflicting 0 damage. With no choice left, he decides to enter the battle. But first, Satu fakes his fall to hide his true identity. Unexpectedly, he equips the holy sword from his inventory to slash the monster in half. He puts on a mask and a wig to appear in front of the crowd. Using pebbles, he beats the crap out of the demon, leaving him shocked. The eyeball demon, pushed into a corner, summons his master, a greater demon lord in service of the demon king. Satu and his holy sword capture his attention almost immediately. However, he doesn't know how to make it glow like Xena said. He blocks his attacks but can't do much damage with an unusable sword. At that moment, he equips his magic staff to cast the starter spell Fire Shot. However, the effects of his attacks are similar to a high-level spell. The demon didn't assume that a martial arts expert would be handy in magic. During the fight, Satu equips the Divine Blade and his God Slayer title. He kills the demon with one attack, knowing his God Slayer title paired with the Divine Blade can eradicate godlike entities. Outside, the slave girls are glad to see their master in good health. A soldier asks if they are his slaves. He remains silent, which puts a sad expression on their faces. The soldier then invites him to talk with someone. Surprisingly, he stops and asks the girls to follow him. Xena tightly hugs him, as she thought he was a dead man. During the journey, he earned a lot of titles but wishes that the hero title would come sooner rather than now. Later, the slave trader officially transfers ownership of the 3 girls over to him. He also claims that 2 other girls have not been sold yet. Lulu, a shy girl, comes out of the shadows and stands without saying a word. However, the other slave ends up being Arisa, who is noisy as an OnlyFans model. She addresses his name with Sama in the end, shocking him. Still, Satu decides to prove his assumptions. He whispers something into Lulu's ears but doesn't get a reaction. However, Arisa loses her shit, thinking there is a spider on her hair. This sucker ended up buying both of them. Nonetheless, his suspicions were confirmed when Arisa freaked out due to spiders. Arisa introduces herself and reveals her ethnicity in a mannerly fashion. But Lulu's shyness gets the better of her. Despite being an introvert, she claims to be quite sturdy and is close to the age of consent by the laws of this world. For some reason, Lisa feels like ranting about her past. She takes too much screen time, forcing Satu to call time out. Arisa finds it odd that Tama and Poki were sold into slavery. Liz advises her to be patient with the kids, but she surprises them by instantly becoming BFFs. This tells Satu what her past would have been like. On their way, he hears Lulu's stomach growling like King Kong. Not to tarnish her self-esteem, he suggests they should grab a bite before returning to the inn. The new girls can't believe Satu asks his slaves from their preference. Tama and Poki want to have some chicken. Lisa is on the stiffer side, saying they will eat anything with gratitude. But if her master insists, then she would like to have some chicken. As the food arrives, everyone's eyes sparkle like glitter. They eat like having a party in Valhalla. On the other hand, Satu closely reviews his food like Uncle Roger. The owner impresses him by serving more food than required. The kids eat the hot stuff and go all red. However, Lisa loves the spice and hopes to make time with her master will be the same. As everyone enjoys their dinner, Satu decides to take a detour around town. Liza wants to accompany him. However, he orders them to enjoy their food. He spends the entire evening buying supplies for the girls like chicken for Lisa's midnight snack. Just then, a couple of strays look at him with literally puppy eyes. Eventually, they return to the inn and Martha welcomes him. Mosa also comes out of her bar area and Noboy takes the Oscar for having the biggest plot. She notices his own harem in the background and says hi. Unfortunately, they don't have extra room for the girls to stay. At the same time, the audience stares at Tama and Pochi with hostility. Satu asks Martha to escort the girls to his room while they will set up camp outside the city. Arisa is impressed by his kindness. She casts some kind of mind manipulation spell with her speech. She claims the girls who conquered the labyrinth and defeated the demons should have some respect. Upon hearing this, Mosa allows them to stay in the stables. The girls remove their clothes, all ready for fan service. He gets stuck in one place, confused about what's happening. Next is Satu, who knows that Arisa means business. However, he tells the girls to put their clothes back on and sleep. Lulu starts weeping, but he assures her those times are gone. Late at night, Satu wakes up groggy with Arisa on his lap. Suddenly, she kisses him without any signals. His mind doesn't want to, but his body is throbbing from excitement. Satu wonders when did he become a creep. Soon he realizes there is a spell on his body. He swiftly wraps his hands around them and orders her to undo the spell. To be safe, he orders to undo any previous spells and refrain from using psycho magic. He wants to know her motives behind her trying to deflower him. At first, she doesn't answer his question. Satu is left on the brink of using magic on her small butt. However, she listens to his warning, explaining that she fell in love with him at first sight. His black hair, baby face, and no-haired balls make him the perfect man for marriage. Unfortunately, he stopped them from getting frisky with him. She is a naughty girl and not sorry for taking the intuitive. At that moment, she reveals that her full name is Tachibana Arisa from Japan. She was reincarnated 10 years ago from Earth. Aside from him, she met one other person from Earth. He assumes that Lulu is from Earth as well, but she doesn't think so, although her grandfather was from Earth. Anyhow, Arisa wants to know if he was summoned or reincarnated. Satu asks her the difference between these processes, and my question is how the fudge does he not know them exactly? As dawn comes near, Satu asks about her journey as a princess who was slaved, hopefully an anime with that name is coming. Later, Martha barges into the room with Xena by her side. He realizes wearing a shirt by this point is a good option. Unbeknownst to him, she finds him sleeping with all his slaves without any clothes. She calls him a pedophile and runs away. Arisa wakes up and suggests he should go after her before things get out of hand. Satu clarifies Xena and him are just friends, but her advice is logical. After dressing up, he jumps out of the window, grabs her by the hand, and starts dancing. He informs her about the misunderstanding. Turns out, Xena's friend Lilio said that men buy slaves for fan service and other stuff. He is definitely going to teach her a lesson, but for now, he convinces Xena that the girls help him in his daily business. He then begins praising her elegant dress and whatnot. Better take notes, cause this works every time. The final nail hits when Satu offers to buy her a shell to go with the dress. Later, they meet up with Arisa, who acts like all of this wasn't her fault. Satu hits her with a flick and asks her to gather everyone. As she runs off, he remembers their conversation from last night. He didn't think she would reveal her past. After reincarnating, Arisa intended to use her memories from Earth to increase their kingdom's wealth. At first, everything was going as planned, but then it fell apart, giving rise to a rebellion. The people behind this coup publicly executed her father and crown prince. They forced them into slavery. However, soon a demon attacked their kingdom and eradicated everything. Arisa and Lulu escaped with their life, but were on the brink of death until the slave trader found them. Back from Lola Town, Xena wants to if he is free for the afternoon. Satu informs her about his plan to rent a house in the city. The staples are fine until and unless people don't call him a creep every morning. They visit the property, nailing agent Natty from the hub. She welcomes them with a smile and asks about their needs. Natty has good news and bad news for them. Unfortunately, he will stay on the west side of town due to his demi-human friends. That side of town is filled with crimes and gangs. The good news is that the area is cheap as hell. On that note, Satu informs her of his monthly budget of 2 silver coins, and if push comes to shove, his budget can increase to 1 gold. Why is this guy so stingy when his pockets are loaded? She didn't know that they were a couple of brickies, and so she brings to the perfect haunted house whose last owner was killed by assassins. Satu looks around and finds a full-functioning brothel right down the street. His map says a criminal syndicate is working under the house with a tunnel leading into the city, making it a straight hell nah. Sachu asks Nadi to look for more suitable houses. In the meantime, he will enjoy the evening with Xena. She suggests they visit the new market in the central plaza. Before leaving, Nadi whispers into her ears that the play in the new market is perfect for a date. In town, Tama, Pochi, and Arisa encounter their master in fresh clothing. He spends some time with them as Arisa and the kids want to see the play. Sachu makes up for this inconvenience by buying her a set of earrings. Arisa comes along wanting to buy jewelry for herself. Sachu tells her to buy stuff for the other girls as well. He wishes that Xena would ask her for gifts, saving him a lot of headaches. When everyone leaves, he buys a pair of heart-shaped earrings for God knows who. Afterward, they head to the play where Tama and Pochi fall asleep before the interval. They cry for food, disturbing the audience. The woman on the next seat laughs, but Sachu apologizes for the inconvenience. He glances right to see that Lisa is using her Sharingan to copy the play. However, her tail wagging tells him she is smelling a meat skewers cooking outside. The play is about Romeo and Julie of this world. A commoner falls in love with the Marquis's fiancée. Their story, much like the love story from Earth, gets fudged. The Marquis orders his men to kill the protagonist's family and him. Feeling despair, the princess takes her own life too. He wishes this was the end, but no. The protagonist's body reanimates into an undead, going on rampage. Just before he kills the Marquis, a holy knight purifies him. The Marquis doesn't live long as the princess curse takes his life. Outside, the same woman drops a note in front of Sachu. He returns it, striking a conversation. She reveals that nobles changed the writer's story to their heart's content. In reality, the Marquis kidnapped married women for his fun. Her husband managed to rescue her and kill the Marquis, but the Matrix likes to stick its nose in everything. He then reunites with the girls only to find Arisa and Xena debating the anticlimactic story. Arisa says the princess should have killed the Marquis instead of committing suicide. However, Xena believes she was in the wrong for loving a comet when engaged with the Marquis. Ares tells it straight to her face that someone steals Satu from under her nose. He doesn't really understand what the hell is going on, but stops the fight anyway. On their way back, Xena encounters her colleagues who like they just made a two-way trip to hell. They reveal that a horde of fang ants and were-rats crossed the border, making it difficult to handle. They are eager to kill the leader of the were-rats with the red helmet. Rumors suggest he attracted the fang ants to their city. During this, they overhear the little girls screaming. He rushes over there only to find a dead ant. Tama and Pochi claim to have killed the ant as it attacked from above. Unexpectedly, his map is filled with red spots indicating a huge horde of ants is coming their way. He organizes his team, giving them different orders. Seconds later, the soldiers ring the emergency bell to inform everyone about the attack. Sachu can easily incinerate them with a fire shot, but it will summon the paparazzis. Thankfully, most ants can't come through because of Arisa's barrier. He orders her to hide inside with Lulu. Tama and Poki are tasked with protecting the inn. On the other hand, the soldiers slam the gate shut. However, the ants come through the cracks. Xena defeats multiple ants with one spell, and the soldiers use crossbows to attack. Liza goes to the front lines with her spear slicing the ants. Sachu kills the rest using hidden movements. Yet some of the ants slip past him. Using unhinged teamwork, Tama and Poki successfully protect the inn. He scans the maps and learns some ants are in Navy's shop. He leaves everything to the girls and goes to rescue her. Dispatching the ant is easy with the divine sword. However, getting past the ant poison on the stars makes him use brain cells. At that moment, the shop manager Bolinin appears and saves her with plant magic. He is the first elf Satu encountered in this world, but he wants to know about his pointy ears. Nady reveals Bolinin is an elvish forest spirit, hence the green hair. The race he is referring to is called long ears, but people usually mistake them for each other, so it's no biggie. Sachu apologizes for the confusion and leaves. Outside, he finds one soldier trying to scan Lisa and steal her monster cores. Naturally, she refuses to give him anything without her master's permission. He forces the soldier to create a receipt for the purchase, earning him the title of beginner merchant. He tries to scan him again with the wrong price and no stamp. However, Satu catches him red-handed. Back at the inn, Mosa cooks them a lavish meal for saving Inn from the monsters. He notices Lulu has been feeling down, forcing him to find a pharmacy at night. Coincidentally, the people he saved from the labyrinth force him to come with them to a brothel. There he learns a bunch of handy skills for the bedroom. On his way back, a shadow owl feather falls in his hands. He looks for the owl only to find shadow stalkers lurking in the alleyway. Sachu defeats them with his magic guns and tends to be wounded. Unexpectedly, the leader of the night asks to meet with Bolinin. He unlocks their door using a lockpick and lets them rest. As Bolinin comes down the stairs, he finds the elf princess Mia lying unconscious. Mia opens her eyes for a few seconds and looks at Satu surrounded by fluffy, shiny spirits, completely ignoring Bolinin. At the same time, the old rat coughs blood on the couch. Nadi is alarmed by his condition and rushes outside to find a doctor. However, Satu doesn't allow her to leave alone. Back at the gate inn, Arisa returns to her OnlyFans habits and sits naked with him. She can't believe he would go to the brothel to pay for services that she can give him for free. Satu claims his visit to the brothel was for research purposes and shuts her mouth with his jacket. This girl starts sniffing it like a slut only to find a dog's scent. He reveals the scent is from an old were-rat wounded in the alleyway. She teases him for being into old men and minors, but Satu tells her to shut it. During their wasteful conversation, Lulu wakes up with a high fever and pale skin. He gives her a paper bag full of medicine, making her compliment his kindness. On that note, he returns to Nadi's office to check on their guests. As they talk, Satu senses movement in the bedroom. Nadi checks up on Mia only to find her awake. She wants to know about her situation, but Mia is interested in Satu. He enters the room and introduces himself. Mia wants to know if he can see the spirits around him. Nani explains that few elves are born with the ability to see spirits. He tries to make her comfortable by asking more about spirits. She reveals that spirits are fluffy and sparkly, telling Satu she isn't the chatty type. After what seems like a pulling of teeth, he learns that spirits flow with the mana under the ground. He feels strange for staying late at Nadi's house, but Mio wants him to stay with her longer. Upon returning to the inn, he finds Arisa teaching Tama and Pochi words written on play cards. Naturally, he tests their progress by asking them to name the animals. Unfortunately, they consider goat and rabbit nothing but meat. Arisa chimes in saying they are not technically wrong. He shuts her up and teaches them about the animals. At the same time, Martha tells their underage employee Uni to clean the horse stables. However, she completed all her tasks with Tama and Pochi's help. Over lunch, he tells them about Mia and her were-rat guard Knight. The girls are eager to meet the princess, forcing him to crash at Nadi's place once again. Despite the girls playing with Mia, she wants him to stay, making it wonder what's with the attachment. Still, he walks downstairs where Lulu is serving Nadi tea. She asks if Satu is really a merchant with no cart or horse. Satu whips the same lie from before, claiming his horse and cart ran away during Starfall. Nadi tells him that Bolnan's old merchant friend is selling a cart with horses. Satu is skeptical about the cart since game developers don't ride horses. Lulu hesitantly speaks up, informing him about her horse riding experience. With that in mind, he hands over a bag full of money and tells Nadi to keep the change. He reflects on this move and considers himself the worst merchant possible. Instead of waiting for the cart like broke people, Harisa takes everyone to the countryside for a camping trip. After finding the location, Satu works the kids to death to create a brand new oven out of stones. In the meantime, the two girls who could have done the job much sooner bailed out to buy groceries. She wants him to boil water in the kettle and make tea. Minutes later, the whistle on the kettle starts to blow, scaring the young girls. They rush to his side, claiming the kettle man is angry at them. He tells them about the concept of states of matter, and water expands due to heat. Arisa asks him to stop creeping out the kids with the nerd talk. How can 10-year-olds know that water can expand 1,000 times after being boiled? Actually, it is 1,600 times, but who's counting? She lifts the kettle's cap, allowing the smoke to escape. She then explains the phenomena by blowing on a flower. The kids claim that Arisa deserves the Nobel Prize after Oppenheimer. During this lesson, the three dogs who received grilled chicken from him the other day came to show their appreciation. Tama and Poki assume they are going to attack their master. However, he assures them that everything is fine. Afterward, they get comfortable around them and start digging up the fruits. As the children show no signs of mannerisms, Satu realizes the three dogs need the fruit more than him. He accepts their kind gesture but asks them to take his excess meat. He stops the kids from speaking before they blabber something. On the day of the cart delivery, the girls suggest they should help Mia return to the Elf Kingdom. Satu likes their idea and agrees to discuss it with the manager. But first, he needs to learn how to ride a cart from Lulu. On their way, he notices that she is uncomfortable as always. Satu tells her to relax, but she insists that slaves should know their place. Despite her attitude, he knows that every one person talks on the right topic. Using his gamer knowledge, he chit-chats about Arisa's younger sister. Unexpectedly, his lowball breaks the ice, allowing Lulu to speak freely. During the conversation, he wonders if Arisa told her about Earth and stuff. Eventually, he takes the reins from Lulu and starts to drive. Moments later, Satu senses a dark presence watching him closely. He ventures deep into the forest only to find an owl that isn't alarming. After learning how to drive, he returns back and finds Mia playing with the girls. She wants to eat honey buns because Tama and Poki have been telling her about them. With no choice left, he asks Lisa and Lulu to buy some from the market. Inside, Nadi tells him that his presence is needed upstairs where Bolnan and the Wererat are talking. He learns that a group of mages kidnapped Mia from the elven forest and brought her to a place called the Cradle. Somehow, she managed to escape from their clutches and ran into the were-rats. They escorted her to the city with the mages on their back. Suddenly, they hear screams from downstairs. It turns out that the girls are scared of the sound of thunder. Satu laughs at them, pissing their pants. However, Tama sees the same owl in their house. The owl transforms into a mage, leaving everyone shocked. The were-rat attacks the mage, claiming he attacked the city with ants and was after Mia. However, the mage casts psychic magic to stop everyone's movement. Frozen, Satu notices that Arisa is fighting back with her psychic abilities. Amid the battle, she helps release a part of his body, giving him enough time to activate his resistance skills. At this point, Arisa might just question his gaming skills, since who the hell just keeps everything deactivated in the first place? Satu finds the name Zen written in his gamer tag area. After a brief thought, he remembers it was the hero from the play who was also named Zen. The undead king claims his mission is to retrieve the elf princess. Satu covers her with his body and calls her a friend. He wants to settle the matter peacefully. However, Zen is hell-bent on getting his way. With no choice left, he goes on the offensive and attacks with a punch. Despite his level, Zen easily evades the attack and manhandles him in midair. At this point, Satu is forced to use a magic item to escape. Zen asks if he's a merchant or martial artist. He then notices him holding a gun like a veteran gunslinger. Satu overconfidently claims there are many tricks on his sleeve. Zen asks if Hiro is one of them. Seconds later, Arisa asks him to move aside. She uses a unique skill, while Zen's off guard. However, he saves himself at the last minute. The use of the skill turns her hair color back to normal. Zen concluded that she was reincarnated from another world. Strangely enough, he advises Satu to forbid her from using the unique skill, otherwise she will become a plaything for the gods. On that note, he captures Mia using his shadow spells. Zen asks Satu to follow him if the fear of death doesn't concern him. Naturally, he tells the girls to handle things while he must save Mia. Satu jumps into a shadow hole, leading him to a vast ocean. He tries to scan the area using a map, but it says enough cheat codes for once figure things out dumb developer. Not wanting to think, he just unleashes a crazy amount of magic power, leading him to the cradle. Zen can't believe he just spaced from the shadow abyss. He claims that only a true hero with a factor can enter the cradle. His tone is so damn confusing that Satu doesn't know if he's impressed or angry. As usual, he just skips the boss's walkthrough speech and goes to save Mia. However, Zen teleports him back to the ground floor, claiming he must not cheat. On the entrance, he finds a disclaimer written in Elvish. After changing his settings, he learns that the tower can only heal elves. Other races are told to enter on their own responsibility. On the first floor, he finds a level monster that is too easy to defeat. He realizes that the tower is made up of 200 floors and the monster will get stronger on the upper floors. But for now, Satu wants to find a cheat way to travel faster. He finds a hidden dryad empty of MP. She doesn't want any beef with him since it's that time of the month. However, Satu claims it's a you problem. Upon laying eyes on him, she immediately asks him to be her forever. Unexpectedly, she forces him to restore her mana through a kiss, earning him the Dryad's victim title. After officially making him feel like a creep, Dryad opens a pathway to a secret room filled with books and knowledge kept hidden from the rest of the world. Yuya, the creator of this RPG tower, made it for the elves. They are lazy bums when it comes to loving their life and death. In a dangerous situation, elves rather die than make a move, leading their young to die early. He created the tower to instill the instinct of survival in his people. However, his long life is now coming to an end. He will seal the place until his elven brothers need it again. After leaving the lab, Satu asks Dryad to teleport him to the Cradle Master. She says nice try, genius, but that won't happen. The max she can teleport him is on the 100th floor. On that floor, he finds 3 busty ad models with wobbling talons flustered to see him. They ask him to wait until they put some makeup on. He realizes that they are just AI models based on Mia's appearance. One maiden addresses him as a warrior and congratulates him for coming this far. Satu claims they are wrong as he's just a simple merchant. The girl looks at her sisters, silently asking, is this in the script or not? She then repeats the same sentence, telling Satu that is GPT 3.5. They activate a golem to initiate the attack. However, he already knows his weakness is the letter on his forehead. Upon being defeated, one maiden asks the others to retreat while she takes care of him. She strikes him with a flash, but Satu knocks her out cold with a slap to the neck. He wants to milk those assets in her sleep, but she reminds him of his slaves. On that note, he enters the secret dryad room where the trees are dying of thirst. He gives them water, which summons a new dryad. Unlike humans, they are connected and share information. Satu helps her regain her mana, the creep way for his portal. He asks for a magic hop straight to the Cradle Master. Unfortunately, Dryad has lost her 5G connection with the Dryad on the 200th floor, making it impossible for him to teleport. Right now, all she can do is send him to the 180th floor, wasting more screen time. In the end, he is forced to kill monsters, waste energy to reach the final floor where Zen has kept Mia. He tells him to step aside from the girl and leave if his life holds value. However, Zen doesn't acknowledge his credentials to fight him. He wants Satu to fight a battler to earn a reward, a lost sword of something that can earn him a fortune. He summons all the AI models in the cradle and gives them a buff. Before leaving with Mia, he also casts strengthening magic on the girl's hands, turning them into metal. They advance with confidence, forcing Satu to equip his spear and use a skill. He attacks with a wind-style skill that sends everyone flying. One of the maiden attacks from above, but it is child's play for Satu to evade. He defeats 2 of them with a single contact and the rest with advanced martial arts skills. As the maiden struggles to fight despite knowing it is futile, Satu asks why to serve a master who uses them like pawns. For some reason, she claims that he's the plan here. She works with her team to cast a barrage of arrows. At the same time, the other maiden attacks in close quarters, slicing his spear in half. Satu is forced to take extreme measures to take her out. However, the other maiden falls to her knees and coughs out blood. Both know she can't continue to fight, but her determination to win keeps her going. Satu stops her attack with one finger and gives it to her in the guts. Before losing consciousness, she asks him to fulfill their master's wish. Ultimately, he wins the battle, earning the right to challenge Zen. But first, he wants to know about the damn wish every hot woman has been going on about. Zen reveals that he was killed brutally in his previous life. However, God, in his limitless knowledge, reincarnated him into an infant with incredible magic powers. He fell in love with a beautiful girl and married her when they came of age. He was foolish to think that this life would be all roses. Unfortunately, God had other plans for him. A noble fell in love with his wife, and her pursuit locked him up under false charges. Not long after, he was executed for shit he had never done. Yet the noble didn't stop there. He murdered his entire family, including his wife, and threw her out like a rag doll. Before dying, Zen turned himself and his family into undead. They exacted their revenge with ease. With that done, he had nothing to live for. But due to God's blessing and the title Undead King, Zen became immortal. He gives Satu the holy sword and asks him to fulfill his wish of dying. After seeing the horrific past, Satu quietly draws the holy sword. Its blue radiant energy becomes the light, liberating Zen from a fate filled with darkness. This earns him the title of Undead King Slayer and Cradle Explorer. Suddenly, a pink smoke came out from the corner, calling Zen a loser. They congratulate Satu for passing the exam, but say that next time will be different. He ignores it like you ignore a vegan activist on the street trying to ruin your steak experience. Seconds later, the eye in the tower glows red and gives a warning. As a game developer, Satu knows that they are fudged. The system starts the self-destruct sequence like the Omnitrix. It was an OG moment for us fans. He wakes up Mia with his magic potions and asks if her elf lineage could do something about this mess. She looks at the control room of the cradle, but doesn't understand much. He tries to use JavaScript to hack into the system. However, his skills are unpolished because of exploiting ChatGPT. He then remembers that number 7 is still in the lower floors. With a minute to spare, he takes Mia to the magic circle, teleporting her out of the tower. Afterward, Satu takes a shortcut down the tower, allowing him to find her quickly. He carries number 7 on his back and goes to Dryad, the green petite girl. She can easily teleport him outside, but needs some of his seeds to replenish him mana. He takes out a bag of seeds from his inventory, buying his ticket out of the hellhole. However, Dryad advises him to bolt because the tower is turning into salt. He worries that carrying Dryad and number 7 would render his moments, but she claims that her life is connected to trees, so it won't matter until a tree is alive. Satu tries to outrun the salt tidal wave. However, with a fat-ass bitch on his shoulders, he is forced to activate the transport skill. It helps him run faster, but his speed isn't enough to outrun the danger. Suddenly, he sees a large lake up ahead. He casts his beginner-level spell Fire Shot to evaporate the lake. Tama and Pachi tightly hug him and cry on his return. They were worried about him leaving so suddenly. Arisa is also on the brink of crying, reminding him about Zen's last advice. He told him to forbid using unique skills if he cares about Arisa. The mortals can't handle the backlash of such skills, turning them into God's puppet. She lets out her tears and hugs him, making everyone cry. Seconds later, Mia steps forward and talks normally. She announces her proud lineage and claims to be the youngest elf in the forest. On behalf of all the elves, she appreciates all of his efforts. This earns him the title Friends of the Elves. Later, the eye models thank him for going out of his way and saving number 7. She asks him about their master. Satu hesitantly reveals that their master has passed away. He gives them his master's final memento. They accept him as their new master, flustering Satu. However, before entering his service, they must fulfill Zen's final wish. They take the ring to his late wife's grave site, but number 7 will stay behind with Satu at all times. Calling her by a number is odd, and so Satu gives her the name Nana. As the smoke settles, Satu reports that an evil necromancer has naughty eyes on him and the kingdom. During the interrogation, Xena comes running to check up on him. She also bursts into tears, worried sick about his health. Satu gives her the gift from before to cheer her up. He then rips the bandage, revealing they volunteered to escort Mia back to the Elf Kingdom. Xena stands up in shock and asks if he will never come back. He assures her that they will return soon after completing the mission. Plus, he will have a million stories to tell her after returning. On the day of their departure, every familiar face wishes them good luck on the journey. Even Yumi gifts Kama and Pochi custom-made necklaces. However, they think it's a snack for them to devour. Moments after they leave, Xena catches up to the cart, telling him to stop. In a private space, she reveals that Wish is to join Satu in the journey, but her duty and family comes first. Despite this, she will join them in the upcoming speed. As they leave, Arisa tells Satu to cheer up. Nana takes a more hands-on approach by stuffing his face in her assets. After some time, they set up camp on a sound hill. Lizard prepares a feast for them to chug down. As everyone enjoys their meal, he notices Mia isn't even coming close to the meat. Satu didn't know that Mia was a picky eater of all things. She is a vegan activist who thinks meat is yak. Tama and Pochi can't believe someone who doesn't like meat exists. Arisa chimes in, revealing that elves don't eat meat because of being protectors of nature bullshit. Eventually, every freeloader at his party stuffs their face with his meat. However, Lisa has some sort of black hole in her stomach as she continues cooking more food. Satu asks if she's pregnant with an elephant's baby, but Lisa claims they are just late-night snacks during their travels. Arisa says they can store the access food in her item box. He can put his stuff in and out. However, Arisa warns him not to overdo it as it consumes mana. Satu is surprised to see that her Stargate works differently than hers. He realizes that accessing his storage abilities is mandatory at this point. As they are about to continue their journey, Arisa mentions that the leather seats have thorns that stick in their bum-bums. If they are not fixed immediately, then their butts won't remain soft for him to enjoy. Despite thinking she's weird as hell, Satu gets on the repairs. He activates his sewing technique to solve the issue. However, he forgets to tie the knot at the end, screwing up the whole process. Ultimately, Arisa takes over the sewing, giving him enough free time to make a plushie. Nana likes the bird and takes it for herself. This forces him to create a plushie for everyone. He intends on resuming their journey. However, the horses require more rest. Plus, Tama and Poki are having the time of their life. With that decided, he looks around and finds a suspicious structure. He orders Tama and Pochi to explore the area and return before sunset. Unexpectedly, Arisa shows interest in the quest and follows suit. Later in the evening, Mia sits under a tree and plays a flute with one leaf. Satu is intrigued by her technique, prompting him to try it out. However, his skills are far trashier than rookie Ed Sheeran's. Satu feels judged by the crowd. He activates his level 10 magic to show them who the boss is. However, Arisa comments that his flute is like a mouse getting its head snapped by a trap. Still, Lulu keeps his confidence up, saying his skills will enhance with time. On that note, Arisa tells him to follow her up the cliff. There, she introduces him to a structure that looks similar to Japanese shrine. Suddenly, Satu remembers flashes of his childhood memories. A strange girl with Stranger Things hair told him they will stay together no matter the dimension or world. She also told him that reincarnation is real but not according to his description. Satu is completely lost in thought about that girl, so deep that he ignores Arisa calling him out. She snaps him out of daydreaming with a loud voice. Despite this, he doesn't share anything with her. He takes another look at the structure, remembering that he created a transport gate in a game made in his college days. He informs Arisa about the teleport gate. However, he can't repair it even with his skills. After getting down, they find Tama and Poki have successfully caught their first prey. Their meat fetish is so strong that they might wage World War III for it. Liza wants them to help her butcher it. However, before that, Arisa insists on holding the monster baby. Naturally, her tiny hands can hold something still, and thus they lose the prey. Tama is sad at her failures, but Satu, being your average white parent, encourages her about next time. On that note, Satu's journey to the Elven Forest continues. Inside the cart, he checks out his inventory only to find Zen's spell book on shadow spells. His curiosity is piqued by interest, and so he opens the book. Unexpectedly, the spells are similar to a programming language, making it easier for him to understand. Next up, he tries to learn the secrets of everyday magic spells to help the girls clean. Instinctively, his left hand starts fidgeting on Nana's assets. However, his focus is so high that it feels like a ball. Soon, Arisa makes him realize, saying it's enough for one day. But Satu gets a few more squeezes before moving his hand. After getting lectured from everyone, he checks his map and finds a couple of were-rats who save her from the cradle. Mia tightly hugs them in happiness of their reunion. The were-rats had something urgent to complete, and so they bid farewell and leave. At that moment, Satu orders everyone to set up camp for tonight. Satu takes the role of night watch. However, after everyone sleeps, he starts getting bored. Creating a new spell is an intriguing idea, but he remembers his duty requires focus. This is best time for him to test out his storage. After some tinkering with his stats, he learns that his storage can store anything within a range of 50 meters. It can also separate compounds from mixtures. He thinks that it might come in handy when separating salt from seawater. However, the effects don't work on that. Ultimately, he understands that his storage sucks. But then one thing comes to his mind. He burns a piece of paper and stores in Arisa's storage. When taking it out, he learns that the fire burned the paper. However, his storage doesn't change the conditions of items. It is like time stops inside his storage. The following morning, Stingy Satu feeds them a stew breakfast from yesterday thanks to his storage. Eventually, they reach the burial site of the were-rats who were killed when helping Mia escaping from the cradle. Her friends thank Satu for saving Mia. At that moment, she prays that the souls of her friends will rest in peace till the end of time. During his journey, Satu takes some alone time at a local bar. He tips the waiter generously, making her wanting to get more of him tonight. Suddenly, one of the customers complains about not having enough salt in their ale. A fight breaks out between the bartender and the customer. However, he breaks it up by offering a round on his tab. Everyone begins cheering for him. But the most unexpected thing happens as the waitress with the jelly-like buns holds him close and walks him upstairs. The others start cheering and wishing him the best of luck, making him realize that the bar is also a brothel. The lights go out, and we all know Satu won't say no to a woman whose milkers can feed him all night. After a crazy and sleepless night, he returns to the girl's side. Naturally, she can't understand his reasons for using a brothel when he's surrounded with girls. Satu just smiles like a criminal because arguing with the likes of her is worse than shooting yourself in the head. Suddenly, a grumpy old man whose ex-wife stole all of his assets before leaving him throws a man out of his way. Liza reminds that he is the one who tried to scam them into selling their flying ant cores for cheap. Satu ignores deadbeats and goes to aid the fallen man. He donates a magic potion to research, learning it works on fractures as well. Arisa claims that donating potions is nice and all, but he shouldn't empty his stash. Later that day, he realizes that learning alchemy is an efficient way to manage potion supplies. However, Satu doesn't stop at alchemy. He learns transmutations while at it, brewing a high-quality potion successfully. He gets a knack for making items and decides to work on a magical item the same night. Just as planned, he creates a simple magical tool. Arisa finds him tinkering with his stuff. She puts her MP into the tool, making it look like a loading screen from a pirated anime site. She hopes that it will explode like a nuclear bomb, but Satu claims it runs just a loading screen. Soon, a new map appears on his screen with black spots. It's like side quest business, but Satu can't endanger the girls. They stop by the nearest town to restock on supplies. With his newfound interest in alchemy, Satu can't wait to go crazy in an alchemist's shop. He hears about the shop from a local and heads there right away with Arisa. Before he can open the door, a masked man exits the shop. This half-drunk, half-dead man blames him for standing in the way. Satu tries to take things peacefully. However, the masked man rudely walks by him with his slave. Inside, Lemurus agrees to sell him 3 elixirs for stamina recovery potions for 1 silver each. She could sell him a lot more, but core supplies have been scarce. He scratches the original idea and asks for other stuff. Instead of accepting money, she demands cores, an illegal item to trade or sold. Satu knows better than pulling an illegal trade for NPC stuff. He leaves with Arisa for the time being and returns at night. He exchanged high-purity cores in exchange for some magic scrolls and other stuff. He asks for more lethal scrolls, but Lenmuris asks if he gives away the good stuff to strangers. After exiting the shop, he learns the 3 spells and head to the black area on his map. He accidentally enters the Forest of Illusions, although the place does not have the same vibe as its name. Upon entering the forest, a little girl named Ayn with no character judgment attacks with metal puppets. Satu effortlessly dodges their ambush and destroys a few of them. The girls start whining like a bitch, calling her protesters on the scene. Suddenly, the Witch of the Forest of Illusions arrives on the scene. She apologizes for her apprentice's rude behavior and takes him inside. She thinks that Satu is the emissary of the Bolnin, making him respectable in the forests. As their conversation continues, the old hag asks Ein if their potions will be ready for delivery. They bribe the local lord with 600 vials of a special potion every year for protection services. The old lady wants to teach him the recipe in exchange of a favor. Hours later, he leaves with a gift from the witch, allowing him to escape the forest. It seems like the old hag wants him to deliver a letter to the forest giant without anyone knowing. Back in town, Satu overhears two men talking about trashing the delivery on its way. He doesn't pay attention to it, as obtaining potion vials is much more important. The pottery owner claims that his order can't be delivered. There are many regulations in their city. However, they can be bypassed if Satu becomes his apprentice. In the meantime, he overhears the white-haired man talking drunk. He wants to become the lord of his own land, giving Satu Broki vibes. Suddenly, the girls appear in the bar out of nowhere to take him back home. He doesn't understand how they were able to track him down with ease, but Arisa refused to say a word. At that moment, he expands his map only to realize that Ein is in trouble. Arisa asks if they are waiting for Jesus' second coming to save Ein. With that said, they rush to Ein's location to find a couple of thugs after her potions. He takes care of one of them, clearing the path to the city. Just as everything was going as planned, someone orchestrates an accident, causing 180 bottles to break. After learning what had happened, Satu goes to the officials, explaining the situation. Moments later, he realizes they are the two shitty characters talking in the inn. They never wanted the potions to be delivered on time. Using his negotiation skills, he offers to provide potions with much higher purity than the Witch of the Forest of Illusions. After leaving the office, In points out the obvious, explaining that buying special vials for the potions is their main concern. Satu remembers that the alchemist said someone bought all of her vials before his arrival. He gets serious, saying they got scammed big time. Satu knows that asking help from the pottery maker is their only option. He tells him about their needs, but not the entire plot. After he keeps pressing, the man asks if he is in danger. Satu nods his head, forcing him to lend a hand. He orders everyone except Mia and Arisa to help him with making the vials, while the other two will take care of the man apart. Pochi, Tama, and Lisa can't grasp the concept of using rotation to build a pottery. However, Satu works like a veteran pro from the NFL. The man can't believe that it is his first time making vials. The girls are also impressed by his ability to do anything. Still, the man claims that the vials need 5 days to dry out. This is the part where he can't help him. Satu, who now has a knack for creating new spells, comes with one on the fly. Mia helps him cast the spell of drying the clay in an instant. Moving on from that, they spend the entire morning and afternoon to create 180 vials for the delivery. Unexpectedly, the shady loser from before raids the pottery workshop. He asks the owner if they are making vials without permission. The man explains he is teaching them how to make vials, but nothing is for sale. Yet the man doesn't listen to his explanation, destroying the vials in an instant. The man apologizes for failing to help their cause. However, Satu has nothing against him. He asks for a moment alone with his friends. He tells Arisa that the vials are safe because his storage is more badass than her item box. For some reason, this girl has too many trust issues. She asks him to show the vials before blabbing about them. Satu takes out a vial from his inventory, but the sudden change in temperature 3 makes it shatters. Arisa claims that the vials are useless if they can't take them out. Satu thanks her for the genius observation and thinks off a solution. He remembers that Arisa's item box makes things change over time. He stores a vial in it along with a magic spell to decrease its temperature. With that, they prepare the 300 vials for delivery. They enter the assistant viceroy's office to deliver the goods. He tells Satu that excuse won't help him escape this time around. However, he presents him with a document confirming the delivery was completed. Now all they need is the viceroy to sign the papers. He stands up in shock when one of his men also confirms the delivered goods. They don't understand why the viceroy is standing like a statue and shedding his pants. At this point, Ain mentions that the sun is about to set. Satu heavily insists him on signing the papers but gets no response. Unexpectedly, Count Kuvanu shows up at the scene to sign the papers personally. He reveals that the witch told him about his shenanigans in the city. He first met his father in the Royal Academy and become good friends. In his honor, the Count gave him the position of assistant viceroy. However, the ungrateful bitch paid him by spitting on his face. As his punishment, he banishes him from the kingdom, hoping the gods will have mercy on him. The viceroy, however, does not like good treatment. He slams a hammer on his toes by attacking the Count with weak spell. Satu doesn't interfere, knowing the Count can handle it. Following this thought, the Count stops the spell with one hand. He challenges the boy to a duel. However, Satu steps in, knocking them unconscious. He claims that killing in front of children is not healthy. The Count compliments the witch for having noble friends. Before leaving the city, he apologizes to the pottery shop owner for dragging him into their mess. But the man is happy as hell because the Count made him the exclusive supplier for the vials. The witch gives him 2 gifts and sends them on their way. Later, he wakes up to Nana naked in his bed. Naturally, he is stuck appreciating the beauty of her assets, but Arisa suddenly barges in with her usual reaction. Nana wants her to calibrate her systems, otherwise her power will turn off. She needs him to place his hand on her heart. However, Mia says he can do the same thing from the back, ruining everything. Upon resuming their journey, they plan their next stop, which is a very dangerous city according to Satu. On the other hand, Xena, yes, she is still alive for some reason, excitedly shows her friend a love letter from Satu. She reads the entire letter out loud, but nowhere it says love. Late at night, Satu reads everyone a bedtime story about 7 gods who descended on their world. However, there was an 8th dragon god who slept most of the time. The 9th god was a demon god with selfish desires that caused him to fight with the rest of them. Eventually, the demon god waged war on the humans. The weak humans prayed to their goddess for help. She went to the other gods, but her pleas were ignored. Eventually, she raised up the dragon god with alcohol and booty to make him teach her a spell. That was when the hero summoning tradition started in the humans. Satu realizes that the girls are asleep, making him stop reading. He doesn't know how this adventure will end, but he is eager to return and see Xena. After being summoned to another world, Satu the expired programmer gains some crazy magic powers. He casts the meteor shower, killing every demon in the area. This earns him a lot of EXP, buffing up his stats. Not only that, he accidentally kills a god in the process, which just increases his powers even more. Satu the merchant heads into a city where he meets with new friends and miners. He falls in love with a military girl, Xena. However, one girl is never enough, especially if she isn't a miner. He comes across a bunch of 10-year-olds, slaves, girls, and buys them. Together, they fight demons, flying ants, and even scammers. Satu takes on the responsibility to escort an elf girl back to her forests, giving him the chance to roam the world. On this adventure, he must navigate the new challenges, all while protecting his miners in the process.